There's a man in China who trains artificial intelligence from a shack on a rooftop. By day, he builds the exact technology that Silicon Valley pays six figures for, sitting in a leaking, un-air-conditioned box he built himself, illegally, on top of an old apartment block. By night, he puts on a delivery uniform and rides into the rain to make his rent. He used to be a big tech engineer. He walked away from all of it, the salary, the security, what the Chinese call the golden rice bowl, to be free. And he told the person filming him a sentence that should stop you cold. Once you taste freedom, you can never go back. He's not a dropout. He's the leading edge of something enormous. And Japan already lived the ending 30 years ago. His name, we'll call him Jared. He's 28. He and his wife live on that rooftop in Chengdu, in a structure so unofficial it has no property title at all. No lease, no contract. He wires the landlord below him around $140 a month, and in return, he gets 2 tiny rooms that could be torn down at any moment. There's no air conditioning in a country where 98% of urban homes have it. His solution, in the brutal summer heat, is to spray water directly onto the walls with a modified power tool. When he's hungry and alone, he eats the same prepackaged meals the cheapest takeout stalls use, about 70 cents a box, heavy on salt and low-grade oil. But here's what makes Jared fascinating. He's brilliant. He builds his own cooling systems, programs his own microcontrollers, assembled a surround sound rig from scratch. He could walk back into a corporate job tomorrow. He refuses. Why? Because of what he escaped. In Chinese tech, they call it 996, work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. A grind so total that people sleep at the office. Jared did the math on that life, the salary, the exhaustion, the years disappearing, and decided the trade wasn't worth it. So he shattered the golden rice bowl on purpose. And when you first hear his story, it sounds like a win. A smart guy who beat the system, who chose his own life over the machine. Except the machine isn't done with him. And this exact story, the escape that becomes a trap, has a name. It just isn't Chinese. In the 1980s, Japan was the richest, most confident economy on Earth, and a new word appeared for a new kind of young person, freeter. It fused the English free with the German word for worker. A freeter was someone who looked at Japan's rigid, lifelong corporate path, the salaryman who gave his entire soul to one company for 40 years and said, "No thanks, I'll work part-time, stay flexible, and keep my freedom." In the booming 80s, that was a lifestyle choice. You could afford to be a freeter because the economy was so strong that part-time work still paid, and you could always go back if you wanted to. Then, in the 90s, Japan's bubble collapsed, and everything about the word freeter changed. The number of freeters exploded from under 1 million in 1990 to over 4 million by 2001. But now, they weren't choosing freedom. They were trapped in it. Companies stopped offering the stable jobs. They'd been replaced by temporary contracts, gig work, part-time shifts, cheaper for the company because they didn't have to pay into social insurance. An entire generation graduated straight into what Japan came to call the employment ice age. And here's the part that should genuinely disturb you. Researchers found that once you'd been a freeter for more than 3 years, only about half ever transitioned back to a stable full-time job. Employers wanted younger, unscarred candidates. The freedom you chose at 25 quietly became a cage you couldn't leave at 30. Japan even coined a name for these people, the lost generation. Today, those same freeters are in their late 40s and 50s, many with almost no retirement savings, facing old age on gig wages. Now hold that image in your mind, the escape that curdled into a trap, and look back at Jared on his rooftop. Because China isn't watching Japan's mistake from a safe distance. China is walking the exact same road, just faster, and with 300 million people on it. The scale of what's happening in China makes the Japanese ice age look small. Right now, an estimated 320 million people in China work in flexible employment. No permanent contract, no safety net. That's about 44% of the entire workforce, a group nearly the size of the United States population, all living gig to gig. And just like Japan, it isn't really a choice anymore. Youth unemployment for Chinese 16 to 24-year-olds hit around 19% in 2025, and many believe the real number is far higher. The sectors that used to absorb graduates, real estate, finance, tech, are all shrinking at once. So the graduates get sucked into delivery work, as one report put it. On China's two biggest delivery platforms, more than 1 in 5 drivers has a college degree. At least 70,000 of them hold master's degrees. Read that again. 70,000 people with master's degrees delivering food on electric bikes. Bikes they have to illegally modify to go faster, because if they can't hit the platform's delivery time, the algorithm cuts them. And this is where Jared's daily reality gets grim. He rides those same streets every evening from 6 to 10 p.m. to earn about $15 a night, just enough for rent. His hourly wage, working as hard as he physically can, around $4. On his best night ever, a torrential downpour when no other rider would go out, he stacked 5 orders and made $7 an hour. While filming, Jared delivered an order to a hospital, to another rider who'd shattered his leg in a crash on the job. That injured man had no idea if the platform would cover his medical bills. Because in China, real injury insurance for delivery riders didn't start rolling out nationwide until mid-2026. He'd earn nothing for months and pay part of the hospital bill himself. This is the freedom. And it was already breaking Japan 25 years ago. But China's version has one thing Japan's never had, something that makes the trap close even faster. Jared escaped the corporate grind to do the work he loves, writing code. And for his first 2 years as a freelancer, it worked. He was driven, energized, treasuring every hour. His income was decent. Then his income started falling. Not because he got worse, because of AI. Here's how he explained it, and it's one of the most honest things you'll hear about this technology. AI made writing code so easy that the price of his work collapsed. A task that used to take skill and hours now takes a single good prompt. And as he put it, if someone else figures out that same prompt, they can do the exact same thing you do. Your skill stops being rare. And when your skill stops being rare, your price falls to the floor. The more you understand AI, he said, the more lost you feel. This is the variable the Japanese freeters never had to face. When Japan's bubble burst, the jobs disappeared, but the skills still had value. If the economy recovered, a freeter could theoretically climb back. Jared can't count on that because the ground itself is moving. In China, job postings for college graduates fell 22% in a single year. In the US, young workers in jobs most exposed to AI have seen a 13% relative drop in employment since ChatGPT launched. A DeepSeek executive stood up at a conference in late 2025 and openly warned that the mark of success for the AI revolution would be replacing the vast majority of human jobs. So Jared is doing the only rational thing left. He's not fighting the wave, he's trying to surf it. He now uses AI to learn new skills in hours instead of weeks, feeding it his own code, studying how it improves on him. He's racing to stay one step ahead of the thing that's eating his income. It's a race with no finish line. And it points to a truth about freedom that both Japan and China are being forced to learn. Here's the quiet tragedy underneath Jared's story. He'll tell you he's free. No boss, no performance reviews, no KPIs. If he doesn't want to work today, he simply doesn't, and simply doesn't get paid. But look closer at what that freedom actually costs. He has to deliver food to survive. The moment your freedom depends on riding into the rain every night just to make rent, it stops being freedom. It becomes something that only looks like it from the outside. One observer of his life called it exactly that, fake freedom, a cage with the door painted to look like open sky. And Jared knows the walls are closing. He and his wife are trying to have a child. He said it himself, right now there's not much pressure, but the pressure starts once you have a kid. The day that baby arrives, the math changes. The rooftop shack, the 70-cent meals, the $4 hours, none of it survives contact with a family. He'll be forced back toward the market he escaped, and the anxiety of that closing future, he admits, is no lighter than the stress of the $9.96 job he ran from. This is the same wall the Japanese freeters hit. They chose freedom young, and one by one, life forced them to pay for it, in lost careers, in empty pensions, in a retirement they can't afford. The freedom was real, so was the bill. It just arrived 20 years late. Jared's bill is arriving faster because AI is accelerating everything. He can see the compromise coming, and when they asked him full-time delivery or back to a full-time office job, he didn't hesitate. I'd choose delivering food. Because I've gotten used to freedom. Once you taste it, you can never go back. The comfortable way to read Jared's story is that he made a choice. A brave one, or a foolish one, but a choice. That's the lie the word freedom hides, because the freeters didn't really choose the Ice Age. The 70,000 master's graduates on delivery bikes didn't choose a shrinking job market, and Jared didn't choose to have AI erase the value of his work while he was mid-career. What looks like a generation rejecting work is, underneath, a generation being rejected by it and dressing up the rejection as rebellion, because that's the only version that lets you keep your dignity. Japan showed us the full arc 30 years ago. The freedom that starts as a choice, hardens into a trap, and ends as a retirement crisis. China is running the same story now, bigger, faster, and with a technology Japan never had to survive. Jared says once you taste freedom, you can never go back. What neither he nor the freeters could see is that the door doesn't only lock behind you. Sometimes it was never really open. Japan was first, Korea is second, America is next. Subscribe, new documentary every Sunday.